Hello and welcome to the Band of One podcast. I am Riley Wilson, and this podcast is designed for absolutely anybody that wants to start, grow, or polish an existing solo or small group performing career. I've got over 50 years of live performance experience. It will include not only my tips, but the tips of other hardworking pros in their neck of the woods, the things that will help you to make more money and have fun while you do the process. If you like what we do, be sure to like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Let's get busy.
Guitar Made Simpler, an intelligent approach, is the first all-new guitar method in years. Riley Wilson, veteran guitar teacher, writer, and performer, has taught this same material successfully to thousands of students since 1987. This logical approach will help anyone begin mastering the world's most popular instrument. A combination of formal notation with guitar tablature and included MP3 disc guarantee your success. Online video by the author demonstrating performing examples slowly and correctly. Start making real progress on the guitar. Order your copy today at guitarmadesimpler.com.
Today I have a guest on that I've followed for quite a while. He doesn't even know it, but it's a fellow who's had a tremendous amount of success out in the Southwest in Arizona, Mr. Walt Pitts. Walt, welcome.
Well, it's nice to be here, and I've probably been following you as long too. I bet 20 years.
Wow. Wow. Well, you know, it's interesting because if you do what we've been doing, and both of us have been doing solo gigs for quite a while, you get to a point where you find out who's really good here, who's really good there, et cetera. And as I said, you've had a lot of success. And I just want to start at the beginning. Where does that begin? I know you're a few years younger than me, but you've been at this a long time. So what got you mixed up with music in the first place?
Well, you know, I got just enthralled with the guitar when I was 8. So I started playing guitar at 8, and my parents bought me a guitar from Skaggs drugstore. We lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico back then. And, you know, they promised me a better guitar if I would practice and get better. And they did one great thing, man. They gave me guitar lessons. I went to a studio, I don't know how many years, a couple of years, maybe 3 years. And I started with a classical guitar player, guy named Ellis Armstrong, who I guess in the guitar world, I didn't know this, but in the realm of classical guitar and publishing, Mel Bay Publishing, Ellis was part of those people. He was friends with Mel Bay and Pimentel Guitars. There's out in Albuquerque.
Yes, in Albuquerque. I know them very well. Yeah.
So there's a connection there. I never appreciated, never, you know, as a kid. So Alice got me going. We did, you know, got some fundamentals, and then I got bored with Ellis, and he got me a young guy, right? So we learned tab, and we started, you know, playing a little bit, you know, and then did garage bands. And you know, I played a lot, didn't know what I was doing. You know, playing bands.
That's my story too. In fact, I think a lot of folks that are doing this are probably saying, well, I don't know what I'm doing either. I tell people that's why we're here, right?
Yeah, it's like, so I just, you know, it was a great way, friend. That's what I did, just play guitar most of that time growing up, and in high school, you know, we moved from Albuquerque. I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico from 5 to 15. Family moved to Phoenix, Arizona, or Scottsdale, Arizona, which I was actually born in Mesa, Arizona, but we moved away and came back. I was getting in a little bit of trouble in Albuquerque. I think I was in my freshman year of high school and came out here and got in a little bit more trouble. Playing, you know, I still played, but you know, I found myself I think it was my sophomore year or junior year. I think it was a sophomore year. It was like I had 5 credits or something in high school. So
Wow.
My dad set me down, said, "Son, what do you want to do with your life?" I said, "I want to play guitar." So that's when I really got serious, about 16, 17. 17 was a real pivotal point for me. It's like in 16, it's funny. did a lot of private instruction through my career. So I did like a jazz studio. It's called Ravenscroft Studios in Scottsdale, and I had a big friend, Monty's Music, who has a music store out here. We both went to the same high school, Chaparral High School, and then he went to Saguaro. I was 1 year younger than him, I think. Graduated, I think. I don't remember, but anyway, he said it was the best school in the state, for learning. So I started to get the fundamentals in these private lessons. Then I got in my junior year. I stayed at the same high school, but I'd straightened up, just went to class. I practiced all the time. I would just work on stuff just during my break. That's all I did. I don't even remember socializing, for those last 2 years. Junior year, I went to Saguaro and I got into the band, jazz band, and that was just a great experience and with great players. And, all I did was practice.
Let me ask you a question, Walt, because you have a similar background. I took lessons, but it was about 3 months with 3 different teachers, and I've detailed that in an earlier podcast. It didn't work well. I didn't get back to lessons for years. Yeah. But you have a tremendous right-hand technique because you play a lot of fingerstyle stuff, but you also play other things, which we'll get to in a moment. But how much of what you learned that first time around with lessons, how much of that did you use going forward? And when you started rocking out, was it just, I don't use any of that anymore? Were you able to use some of it? Was there any spillover, I guess?
I didn't even get into, my story is pretty diverse. I didn't get into fingerstyle till I was about 65. So I think it's been 15 years ago is when I got into fingerstyle playing.
Interesting.
Or deep into it. I did do some classical pieces because I studied a little bit in college. Had to do, for some classical stuff. So I had the fake nails and all that, but not a classical guitar player, but I could do just enough to, play a couple of pieces for a wedding or whatever. So, but.
Well, you have a really interesting approach. Again, more about that later, but I noticed that you also sing. So were you in choirs in school or church or anything like that growing up?
That's really interesting. So for all you aspiring musicians, guitar players out there, I would consider myself a much late bloomer. And things came, like I didn't start singing. I didn't even know I could sing till I was 28. 27.
Wow.
I never sang. I was afraid to sing. And I sang to pay my bills. So, we have a similar story. I hate to bounce around a little bit, but you and I went to GIT. So
yes.
I same year you did. So that got me into the pro level. I never played. I might have played maybe one pro gig prior to that.
Yeah.
But I was like, I never made money playing an instrument, playing guitar, even though I was practicing and saying, and I aspired to be a jazz guitar player, I think, in the end, which I'm grateful I'm not, I can do with skills, but I'm not like a jazz player. So within that, I had a family. After GIT, I moved back to, I know I'm bouncing a little bit, but to get into the necessity of, I've had to adapt through the years, and what's kept me working as being able to keep things fresh enough and not be perfect with things and be willing to grow around, be willing to try some new things out and grow and stuff. But the same.
I want to pause you right there because you just said a mouthful, my friend.
Yeah, it's like
you said that you were willing to make some changes. It didn't have to be perfect. And I hope everybody that watches this podcast will listen and understand it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Yeah. We need to do our best, right? We need to try and be really good, if not excellent, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I was seeing the other day that, Lenny Breau played at GIT. I believe it was early 84, right? And in like 8 months, he was dead. Roy Buchanan and Danny Gatton both took their lives within 18 months of one another. Both guys had their own signature model Telecaster guitars. Point being is do your best, but don't get hung up on being perfect. So I can't agree with you anymore. I could try, but I would fail, as Ross says on Friends.
So it just brings back a lot of memory. I know we're bouncing a little bit.
That's okay. Listen, on this podcast, it's designed to bounce because that's kind of how we're doing it. I think it's more fun for everybody that listens in. It's like you and I are just sitting here having lunch and talking.
All right. So to put it all in perspective, so I was there at the last concert that Lenny Bro played. I hung out with Lenny, and my time at GIT was not singing or being a solo guitar player or anything. I just wanted to be a great guitar player. So I would hang out with Joe DiOrio's office all the time and what is this? And Joe Pass and all the players. And I go home and practice all the time. I mean, that's all I did. I had a few friends, but I didn't socialize a whole lot. Just made that time to practice. And so Lenny was it, man. Lenny was like, oh my gosh, trying to do that, work on some of that stuff. But when I came back, I'm grateful I met my wife. I met her actually while I was going to GIT. So I met her. I started in the September session, I think. I met her coming back to Albuquerque to Phoenix. So I go back. I met her in November, and then we just fell in love right away. I asked her to marry me my second date, so I was like, I'm coming back, because I would never meet another woman like that. Just accepted me for who I was, and I'm a guitar player. That's all I did was I'm going to play guitar, play music. So
isn't that a tremendous blessing?
Yeah, I attribute my success to her, really, in some ways. She's made me a more human, so I've been able to. There's a lot of successful musicians that, have had other work, right? They've done corporate world or business stuff, so they're really good at empathizing with people around them. I don't know if I would have gotten those skill sets. I've been around some really great musicians, and that seems to lack for a lot of those and they don't really make any money playing or much at all. So
it's true. Walt, I want to address something that's really important for you and it's important for me, and that is work ethic. When Dad kind of sat you down in your mid-teens and said, son, your ladder's maybe not leaning up against the right building, what building to go to. Were you able at that point to kind of get leverage on yourself and say, you know what, I do just really need to focus on the guitar? And was the work ethic, and that might have been the way you raised or whatever, but was the workplace, the work ethic at that time, did that kind of kick in to help you to do all that stuff? So you were able to go to GIT, you could hang out with Joe DiOrio or Don Mock and listen to Lenny and ask questions afterwards and not get blown away?
Yeah, okay. I think it did. I think that work ethic was not, that didn't register back then. I got a job, that term, I got kicked out of school for a semester. So it was like, you're going to get a job. My dad got me a job at a tire store he was at. I got fired in 2 weeks because I screwed up a tire. So then I had to find my own job, which was awesome, right? I found my own job, and I washed dishes for a couple of years, a year and a half, and I would wear disc gloves, and I was going to high school. I was going to school too, so I wear my wash gloves, and then I come home and practice. Smelled, and I go to school. I don't even know how I got through don't know how I graduated. I graduated from high school. I just didn't even think about it. And then the guitar was the focal point. It was like that thing and it just brought aligned it enough to make it what it is. So yeah, I had a strong work ethic, I guess. Yeah.
I think the other thing you mentioned, of course, being married, because our years overlapped. I started in March of '83. You must have started in September of that same year.
Yeah,
right? So anyway, what was interesting about that is that my wife and I were actually married on July 4th. It was a holiday, and we got married that day in Hollywood. We planned it. We've actually been married, just celebrated our 42nd wedding anniversary. And I will tell you that much of my success is attributed to her and her being willing to accept the lifestyle that we've had, because both of us have been very, very fortunate to work. I love one of the things that you said on your videos, Walt, just on the, I teach people how to play gigs at small to medium locations, the sort of work that's out there really for anyone and everyone if you just want to do it. But that's where the real work is. You know, playing concerts, going on tour, making major label recordings is available for a handful of people. Whereas the work that you and I do is available for anybody if they're willing to go out and get it. Would
Yeah.
you agree with that?
Absolutely. That's been a blessing for me. And I never really ever aspired to be honest. I didn't even think of a stage. Can I make money? I wanted, number one, to teach, do a little teaching, but play. How can I make money doing my craft, playing? And it didn't matter if it was a stage. As a matter of fact, I prefer just being part of the, people call it background music, but oh my gosh, through the years, it's just like you're actually enhancing a space, man. You're like part of an environment. Through the years, always I get thank you for playing, or thank you for checking the volume. You know, like I'm part. But I've had a niche. I've been very blessed. I've had a steady gig for 23 years.
You know, it's interesting because we both know a lot of guys that tried to stay in Hollywood after school and realized that, you know what, maybe I might have trouble here. You know, I was there for 2 or 3 years afterwards. Angelica and I moved to Granada Hills. We were there for almost 3 years. And we enjoyed being there, but it occurred to me that the most I'm ever going to make on any of these gigs is about 40 bucks a night. And it didn't matter if it was with a 3-piece band or a 10-piece band or whatever. And I'm grateful that I was able to take the things that I learned from MI and then go and teach that. And let's talk about the teaching aspect of things for just a minute, because I bet there's several folks that are teachers that have thought about doing this and they haven't jumped onto our ship yet, if you will. When you came back, did you start teaching immediately? And when you did, what was your curriculum and how did you handle all of that?
You know, I'm pretty much an improviser, so my curriculum was not. It wasn't really a curriculum per se. I went out with a couple of method books, and I used a lot of kids, and I taught in like 3 different music stores I travel around, and that's kind of my thing. I'm good at one-on-one, getting a sense of what someone wants, and then I'm smart enough to pass someone on to go, look, if you want, I may not be the right fit for if we're going to be so super structured per se, other than I can give you this, let's work on this, kind of coaching more than. But for the beginners, which I love, and I haven't done it for 30 or 40 years, 30 years at least teaching. It seems like 25, something like that. But the kids, I love the kids, and that makes me as excited as playing. But I did make much more money performing in the end, just playing gigs. And I didn't start out as a solo musician. I was playing sideman. Phoenix, Arizona has a vibrant, a lot of resorts, so there was always gigs. So I've played with steel drum bands. I was a sideman with steel drum band for many years, marimba, and then did a lot of corporate work with the casual scene, right? So I wore the tuxedo, did the bar mitzvahs. You know the drill. So
Absolutely.
I feel blessed that I was part of that time. I know it's harder to get that hard experience, to get to have that now. The work has changed for that type of, vocation. But that really was the foundation for me, was playing the gigs. But I love teaching. So
one of the questions that I wanted to ask is when you attended GIT, you mentioned college earlier. What did you study in college? And
I went to MC Mesa Community College, which helped me. That really helped with my fundamentals. Like I took a lot of theory classes, and was in ensembles, trios. I did a lot of that, and I just met a lot of great artists and stuff. And Mesa was kind of the stepping stone from Saguaro High School. A lot of the artists went there, and a lot of those musicians I know, they went on to play with great, like Lyle Lovett. There's some different players have gone on to do, I guess better thing. Like they play with well-known acts. I never have per se play other than a sideman here in town, so I never did that. But to be honest with you, I probably have made a better living than a lot of those through the a lot of those artists through the
Well,
years.
one of the great things, and I think you would probably agree with this, GIT taught us to be versatile.
Yeah,
And you know what? Every
yeah.
time I watch one of your videos or I see some of the stuff, some of the guys that are doing that are gigging as well as singing, we'll get to that in a second. But I think the fact that you were able to play with all these different kinds of acts, being versatile, was the thing that allowed you to make the money to provide for your wife and maybe a family, you know?
It gave me the skill sets to it just had to do whatever. It's like when I was kind of forced to sing, I was in a casual band. It was like the band leader put a mic to me and said, "Start singing." And going, "Oh," so I started singing and I took vocal lessons too. I started studying. So I wouldn't call myself a vocalist, but it seems to be the thing that has kept me, it's kept food on my table and kept a steady, like I've got this customer that I've had for some, Desert Mountain, which I have to give a shout out to, like the membership and the staff and the management have kept me there. And it's a direct booking. It's like, I go directly through them. So through the years, man, it's like, wow, I've been blessed to have an opportunity like that. So, and I've had to evolve through that. I started there as like an instrumental guitar player. Even though I'd sang in other bands, I just started because there used to be out here was Southwestern music, which is still here. You got the people that play nylon string and
Hmm.
do the instrumental. So I sort of kind of doing whatever with that, and you know, but
It's really interesting just watching the different things because one of the things you mentioned that a band leader stuck a mic in front of your face,
yeah,
a lot of people that would, turn around and run, and you didn't do that, and you
oh,
also took vocal lessons. What when it's interesting. I studied with a lady named Elizabeth Sabine when I was in Granada Hills, and she had worked with. She's worked with Axl of Guns N' Roses, Ron Keel of Keel, the guys in Striper, all these different people. And she said everybody was born with a strong 3-octave voice. But
mm,
because we're told while we're in grade school, shh, be quiet, hold your voice down, you're talking too loud, all of those kinds of things. She said eventually we just emotionally shut down and we're not connected. And I thought that was a fabulous way to teach voice because I've always sung in every band I've been in since I was 13, whether I wanted to or not.
so,
But I tell people that, and it's interesting because I've had the same conversation with my buddy in Raleigh, Bill Barney, and Yancey Stevens here, and we all agree. Yancey majored in guitar at North Texas State and is a wonderful player. But he
well,
said, man, if I was depending upon my guitar gigging skills, he said, I would have gone broke and been selling pizzas or,
yeah,
cars or something.
yeah.
And so I'm glad that worked out. Who did you study voice with?
I just I took voice lessons here in town. Some gal, Wendy DuPont, I think was the first person, and then I did some of those
Yes.
I
Yes.
can't
Seth
remember
Riggs.
Seth Riggs.
Yep.
So I got those tapes and I worked with that a lot, and then I did the one-on-one with her, and then I did some other with a singer. Not a trained singer. I do enough not to hurt myself, and I do know my limitations. I will push it sometimes, but I just keep it simple. And hey, man, it's just like all of it. It's like simpler seems to be better a lot of times. So I kind of work with what I got and not, you know,
Well, I think you've got a fine singing voice. I think when did you realize after? Oh, wait a minute, I can do this. It's not a big deal.
um, I didn't know I could do it as a solo, like it'd be part of my solo musician thing. I mean, I've had like where I've been at, that's when I really started singing, and I was like 10 years, 15. I've been there, so 23 years, so probably 12 years of instrumental, and I learned some mandolin, but I was good. I mean, I mean, I had skill sets that people admired it. So, but it was people wanted vocals there, and there's other talent up there too. So it's like, okay, I'm going to start singing, and I had already had the background, and I'd actually would drive up doing my vocal exercises. So I have a hour drive one way to the gig, so I do my vocals while I'm driving up, warm up. It's a routine I do, so it's kept me.
That's terrific. And again, we're going back to that work ethic, but that's something that you've demonstrated that you certainly have. And let's talk about, first of all, obviously you can play the guitar and you can play a bunch of different styles. You can sing, but you also play mandolin. How did mandolin come into the fray?
Well, so at the property I've been at, I play at a place called one of the places I was hired there to play at a restaurant called Constantino's.
Hmm.
Constantino's is named after the developer Lyle Anderson. It's named after his mom's name. And back then, it was kind of a. I'm trying to articulate the environment I was in. So I'm in my 40. I think I'm 45 back then or whatever. It was my dream job, and there's a story behind it. If you remind me how I really believe I got the job.
Absolutely.
But so anyway, it was the kind of at the time was the prime, it's this new thing there. And I can't, the property's super exclusive. It's the high end income earners in the world.
Sure.
And now it has like 7 clubhouses and multiple restaurants. So they have entertainment in different venues and whatnot. But back then Constantino's was a new thing, and Lyle Anderson, the developer, was up there a lot. And so I would play for him, and he'd always give me $100 tip. Like I would always get $100 from him.
That's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a bless, and back then there was a lot, 2002, 2005, the income, there was a lot of income. There's just a lot of cash too. And it paid good too. I was smart to bill it at a good price, so I was able to do that. But so the developer, Lyle, one day I would stroll around. I still stroll around a little bit, but back then I strolled a lot because there wasn't a lot of people in the lounge. How do I keep this gig? What do I do to get it? So I would stroll, and I had management, no one's in here, go out, play. So I would stroll around and play. And, Mr. Anderson would always, Walt, come on over. He still knows my name, man. I mean, a guy who's developed, he's incredible. And I always play a song, The Godfather. So I would play The Godfather on guitar, and they said, Walt, it'd be really cool if you do that on mandolin. Have you thought about it? So it was like that. Yeah, of course I'll do that. So, it took me, I had it out in about 4 or 5 months, and I just bought some mandolin books. And I will not call myself a mandolin player, but I do enough. I can play melodies on it. And the thing that blows my mind is when I initially started, I didn't tell anybody. I just brought it in. Hey, Lyle, here's the mandolin. Hey, I'm playing mandolin. It's like I played, like back then, Somewhere My Love was like.
Oh, yeah.
And if people would and The Godfather too. Now, over the years, I still play them, and thank goodness I still have it, right? Because things kind of bob and weave, with
Yeah.
who you have and management, what they want. So it's always in my back pocket, and I'm using it a lot right now again and going, thank goodness I worked on this instrument.
My wife's family, her father was German. In fact, he was actually in the Luftwaffe in the Second World War. That's a story you and I will talk about sometime on the telephone. Incredible story. But her grandfather, her father's father, was in a vaudeville act that played in the United States in the 1920s and 30s. And my brother-in-law got the mandolin that he used to play in that act and had it fixed up and sent to me about 8 years ago. And I tried you remember the Tommy Tedesco trick, and that is tune everything to standard. I couldn't do that because I thought I've got to do this the way that, it should be done on the instrument. But I managed to learn to play it, and I've got about 4 or 5 songs that we use it on. Let Me Hold You by Stoney LaRue, and it's on the beginning and a couple of places in the Brooks and Dunn song, Red Dirt Road, things like that. And it's just another color, and that's what I was going to say, is it's cool that you have multiple colors in your quiver to pull out depending upon the gig.
Really helped. It's helped a lot. I mean, the voice has been it really has been, and I've worked harder on the voice through the I feel like my guitar chops, I've got a lot of stuff I wrote too. I can't really play right. I just can't play it. I haven't worked on it. And I'm okay with that. It's like kind of ebbs and flows. There'll be time later or whatever. So it's like, but the voice and having that extra thing seems to be the trick. Just playing guitar and singing alone. I mean, I'd love to just do that and not even have, I do some backing tracks, that done all that stuff through the years for a simple loop. And I would love to walk into my gigs and just do that. But it's like, man, I take out a Ovation behind me and I have a Strat and I take out a Mandolin. And they go, no matter, I just take them out, even though I don't want to, they're there. And I'm always glad I do because you never know. You just,
Absolutely. So here's what I had to do several years ago about that very thing, and I'm glad we're talking about this because maybe this might help. I don't know. Inevitably, whenever and I've been on Gig Masters, The Bash, and Gig Salad, and I'm on a place called Gig Heaven now, and some other sites. We'll talk about that probably in the next episode in just a moment. But one of the things that inevitably somebody would say, bring the acoustic guitar, and then private party, corporate, doesn't matter. Somebody gets a little too well-oiled. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And so I play Freebird, play this, play that. And I've got these sequences there. I'm thinking, I can't do LaGrange on my Ovation guitar. Oh, by the way, yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Anyway, so I discovered that what I could do is I could create, because I use backing tracks as well, I'll create two mixes. I'll do an solo acoustic and solo electric. On the electric ones, I'll leave the electric guitar out. I'll take my PRS and I'll just play the lead guitar parts on that one. But on the acoustic ones, if I've got people that are going down that road, right, I've got enough of the hard electric guitar solos that I've already recorded here at the house so I don't get stuck like that. Because inevitably, it's going to happen.
I bring out the.
But there are a lot of gigs that I would like to have to bring them all. My issues is that I've got back problems after hauling B3s and all that stuff in the early days. So I try and carry as little bit of gear as possible. And we'll talk about equipment in just a moment. Let's wrap up this one for right now. I'm Riley Wilson with my special guest, Walt Pitts. You've been watching the Band of One podcast. Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you've got ideas for future podcasts or you've got a guest that you'd like to nominate, please get in touch with me through our webpage, which is guitarmadesimpler.com. You can also respond to our Facebook page, which is Facebook, guitarmadesimpler.com. And you can also get the Band of One podcast on YouTube. So long. We'll see you next time.